everyone. I just want to quickly check if Bethany Sumner is in the room because we have one person with an ID and we're not sure if it's Bethany. So it looks like we might not have Bethany in the room, who's our first speaker. I can start kind of introducing the format of the session. And then if Bethany isn't there, we can do a little break and then return. Yeah? Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Sazna Jayadeva, and I'm going to be chairing this session today. We have three really exciting papers, and I'm looking forward to hearing the research and having a really good discussion. The format for today's session is the same as always. We have each speaker speaking for 20 minutes, and then we'll have 10 minutes for Q&A. And we really have to follow the order of presentations because sometimes audience members might be moving from session to session because they're interested in a particular paper. With respect to Q&A, we strongly encourage everyone to ask questions or share reflections. You can do this either by writing your question in the chat at any point during the presentation, or if you prefer, you could just use the raise hand function, or even just physically raise your hand since we're a small group when it comes time for the Q&A. And then I guess the last bit of housekeeping is if everyone could keep themselves muted when they are not speaking. So I'm just gonna, our first speaker is supposed to be Bethany Sumner. So as far as I can see, Bethany is still not here. Are you here, Bethany? No? Okay. So unfortunately, this means that we now need to actually wait till 12:15. Is that right? Yeah, because as I mentioned, we need to really stick to the schedule to make sure that anyone who is coming with a particular paper in mind is still able to see that paper. So shall we then take a short break till 12:15, and we can begin 12:15 sharp with Denise, who has a really fascinating paper on the experiences of first-generation students who are transitioning to higher education in Chile. So everyone, please come back at a little bit before 12:15, and then we'll start at 12:15 sharp. Christian, do you think we could put some kind of a placeholder so if someone joins a little bit late?
I'm doing it. I'll put up the slide.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So see everyone back very shortly.
Thank you.
it's perfect. So we still have a minute to go. But as I mentioned earlier, in case anyone new has joined us, we have 20 minutes for the presentation and then 10 minutes for Q&A. So you can start putting down your questions even when Denise is speaking, in case you might forget, or you could just use the raise hand function during the Q&A. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker for this session, Denise Lilo Sierra, who will be presenting a paper titled Becoming Someone, Experiences of First Generation Students Transitioning to Higher Education in Chile. So Denise, over to you.
Thank you. Right, so I'm a doctoral student in the Department of Education Studies at University of Warwick. And today I'm going to be talking about my doctoral work so far. This is still work in progress, but I'd like to share some preliminary findings of my work. What I'm doing basically is my study explores the experiences of 14 prospective first generation students. And when I talk about first generation students, I mean students who are the first in their family, aspiring to go to university, and how these students are transitioning from secondary school to higher education in Chile, where I am from, and what is the context of the study. I'm also examining the school mechanisms in place to support the students during the transition. And I'm drawing on the application of the capabilities approach as my theoretical framework in the field of higher education access to better understand how the students transition to higher education and the factors that may enable or constrain their post-school opportunities. So my research questions are the following. First, how do prospective first-generation university students transition from secondary schools to higher education in Chile? And then I have a couple of sub-questions. The other one is how do prospective first-generation university students experience the transition from secondary education to HE? And then the other one focuses on the support mechanisms in schools. And in this presentation, I'm going to be focusing on the experiences of the students. So while focusing on the transition of this group of students, the field of transitions has grown in importance. So we have seen how research in this field has expanded in different contexts as well. We know so far that it is a complex endeavor, especially for underrepresented students. However, there has been limited interest in the experiences of students before the first year in higher education, as well as the experiences of them transitioning to higher education. There are also some operational challenges in talking about transitions, as it really depends on the context and the researchers' criteria on what constitutes a transition. Wilson Stridham's work is particularly relevant for my work because she works on the capabilities approach and their application. And it draws on the everyday experiences of students from socially disadvantaged backgrounds into the assessment of the capabilities or opportunities or freedoms that may enable them to better navigate higher education access challenges. I am understanding transition in my work as the capability to navigate change. This means the resources to engage with change conditions without having full control over and or knowledge about what change involves. What happens in Chile is that there is a confirmation of international findings as well. So has also been found that first generation students are more likely to come from vocational or public schools, that they face significant financial constraints and academic challenges. Some of the figures and the data available shows that by 2011, 7 out of 10 students were the first in their families to access higher education. However, students from public schools are more likely to enroll in less selective higher education institutions. And for instance, by 2021, the admission process, about 100,000 students access a higher education institution. However, only 38 of them came from a public school. This is just a snapshot of my research design. So I am following a case study design, as I mentioned in the beginning. Participants were 14 prospective first-generation students from 2 different schools. One of them was a public school and the other was a subsidized school. Public means that it's free of charge, and then subsidized is that it's partly paid by the families and a subsidy from the state. These 2 schools were selected based on the vulnerability index. This is an official index from the Ministry of Education that measures the likelihood of students dropping out based on social economic circumstances. I also adopted, I'm sorry, it's really noisy outside. I also adopted a longitudinal approach. So I collected data for about 7 months. It started from July 23 until January, February this year, 24. I operationalized the capabilities approach as part of my research instruments. So several of the questions were based on the capabilities approach in the questionnaire as well as the interviews, and also as an analytical framework. I conducted thematic analysis. What you have there is a table, very visual, so I think this is helpful to understand what I did. So I started with a questionnaire that I applied to the entire cohorts from the 2 different schools, year 12 students. So that means students were between 17 and 18 years old. I designed this questionnaire thinking that it would be a screening tool to identify students who were prospective first-generation students, but then I realized that I had so much rich data from the questionnaire that it became also a context setting tool. So number of students, 164. And then from there, I invited 14 students from the 2 different schools who met all the criteria, selection criteria. I conducted 3 semi-structured interviews with each of them. The first one followed a life history approach because I really wanted to understand their life circumstances and their contexts. Second interview was higher education oriented. So we talked about their plans, the knowledge about the subject, higher education institution choice, as well as some of the financial plans they had to cover tuition fees. And then the last interview was a follow-up interview in which we had the time to reflect about the transition and how they experienced the process. Something that is important to mention is that I started interviewing students while they were at secondary school, and then the last interview was during at the point in which they had decided or not to enroll in a higher education institution. So they had already graduated from school. And I also conducted cross-sectional semi-structured interviews with head teachers and counselors to explore the other research question, which is the school supports mechanisms in place. This is just a snapshot of the school. So basically demographic information. Both schools were located in the metropolitan region in Santiago, Chile. So one public school, the other one subsidized, both co-educational. One followed a vocational track, meaning that students were provided technical skills to join the labor force upon graduation. And then the subsidized school followed an academic track, so basically university academic oriented preparation. The public school is free of charge, and then the subsidized school is about £78 per month. Considering the vulnerability index, the public school had an 85%, and then the subsidized 51%. I think this is really interesting, and I wanted to share this as well. This is one of the questions that I asked students in the questionnaire, and it was, what is the highest level of education you expect to obtain? And here I have highlighted that most of the students wanted to pursue a university degree. And I think it's really interesting also that significant number of students also stated that they wanted to pursue a doctoral degree. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time and the resources to further explore that option, but I think it's really interesting. How about the participants? So again, this is just a snapshot of the students who ended up participating in the longitudinal phase of the study. Overall, I would say that most of the students consider themselves as females. Also, some of them were 17 years old. So I had to seek parental consent from parents and guardians and the schools as well, because all the interviews were conducted at the school premises. Also very interesting is that some of the students were not only prospective first generation students in university, but also first generation students graduating from secondary school. So the levels of highest level of secondary education among some parents were year 9 or even 10, which means leaving school at 14, 15 years old. Most of the students were high achievers, and also parents were more likely to have unskilled jobs. This is the other school. So again, it's very similar. Most of the participants consider themselves as females. Most of the students in the school were minors. So again, parental consent was sought. And it was very similar in regard to parental occupation and levels of education. So in terms of the preliminary findings, one of the selection criteria to be part of the study was not having any type of higher education tradition within the family, immediate family, and also wanting to go to university. So among all the participants, higher education was a desirable course of action. Even either material and or academic circumstances made them doubt its feasibility. It was also relevant to that the reasons varied. And I have identified two main themes so far. So the first one is higher education as a means to achieve one's goal. So this means that students were more practical or pragmatic. They had an end goal and they realized that higher education was a means to get to that position. So these two answers respond to the question, what do you want to go to university? And then we have Ariel, and then he said, I need a degree to legally exercise my profession. So deep down, I want to go to university to be able to do what I want to do, which is to become a lawyer. Valeria, she says, if I want to travel around the world, I need to be pragmatic. I need to work. So having a degree to support me would be very helpful. She also acknowledges that there are a lot of people who make it without having a university degree. She says, it's helpful to have one, and if I have the chance, I'll take it. For some other students, going to higher education represented an opportunity to be, quote unquote, better than their family members. And these excerpts respond to the question, what does your family think about your plans? So we have Leticia, and she says, my dad tells me that he tries to do his best to provide for me so that I don't go through the same challenges as him. He tells me, Leticia, I have to work in a different city. I miss you, but I do it so you can have a better future. In the case of Lorenza, she says, my brother is really happy. He likes the idea of me going to university because he doesn't want me to be like the other people in our family. I am his bride. He tells everybody that I am going to university. And then Melek says, they told me that they want me to do better than them. They want me to take all the opportunities available. Another finding that I'm working out so far, it has to do with students' coping mechanism and their emotional well-being. Students experience the transition as an emotional, intense, and demanding process. And they're more likely to experience emotional distress and uncertainty due to the lack of complete higher education information, which has to do with application deadlines, financial aid forms, and choice in general, which subject to choose and higher education institution. Here again, I have some excerpts about how they feel about going to university. They talk about stress and anxiety. So Malek says, I have anxiety since I was a child. I overthink. I'm not sure if I will be able to make it or not. Juan also talks about being anxious. This is my first time. I'm even more anxious. I don't have anyone who can tell me thanks. And then I'd like to stop in Leticia. I think this is very telling because we can see how this is a very multidimensional phenomenon, and there are many aspects such as parent support, lack of information, emotional well-being that really intersect in how they experience the transition. So she says, I'm one of those people who spends most of the day thinking about the results because I want to know what I'm going to do. I like to plan. So sometimes I sit down and I ask out loud, what do I do? And they, their family, said to me, you always was the same thing, basically. I don't know. I can't stop thinking about what I'm going to do. And I tell myself, I will need to work, and the salary won't be enough. So the money I make will only cover tuition fees, and I will have to depend on my parents. And I don't want that because I want to help them. And I think about this all the time. So her mental state, um, she would ruminate, overthink, and she was very concerned and worried about many different things. And that was impacting the type of decisions that she was able to make. There's so much more that I could do and say about this. But some of the final thoughts that I wanted to share is that some of the students' attitudes and the coping mechanisms that use may either enable higher education opportunities, and this has to do with self-awareness, the willingness to learn, being able to prioritize, to seek for help. That's very important. Not all students are able to realize that they need help. They don't know how to ask for that. So I think that's really relevant as well. On the other hand, there are some attitudes that may constrain their opportunities, such as exhibiting self-doubt or experiencing mental strain, which directly impact their ability to navigate the transition. I could also observe how transitions are non-linear. They may seem a little bit more challenging at certain periods and then just more simple at other times. They are complex because they are multidimensional. There are several factors, external and internal, that are impacting how students experience this change period. Especially because the lack of information, and I would say even more the lack of information, if it's about the lack of spaces they have to voice their concerns and have that dialogue about what to do, how to do it. And when that doesn't happen within their families, then the schools have a very important role to play. But then if the schools are not really able to provide those spaces, what I found is that students were able to socialize and create informal support networks among themselves in which they socialize information and inquiry about higher education options. Also, very important is that higher education choices are malleable. Students do have a preference from the beginning. However, they are very likely to change during the admissions, depending on the admission test score. Final decisions are made during the application process, which in Chile is a 3-day window. So they would change their preferences based on the scores they got. And then in regards to the contributions, I think adopting a longitudinal approach, I'm really happy I took that approach because it really allowed me to record changes over time and capture that change instead of just capturing a snapshot of the student's circumstances and just like the access point. I also found that life history approach and the capabilities approach fit in really nicely because they do highlight and emphasize importance of the complexities of larger societal structures and how lives are never really lived in vacuums, and the multidimensionality of well-being and agency is another factor that is really prevalent in the study. And also, I can see potential to inform policy or even institutional practices in terms of inform or strengthen the implementation of national policies in Chile during the last 10 years, I would say last decade. There have been several efforts to widen the participation of underrepresented students. And there are several programs, institutional programs, as well as national programs that support the students. So I think this could also shed light on important factors to be considered. And also, this can also inform institutions such as universities and school to implement interventions or academic practices to better support students. So this is the end of my presentation, and I'm very happy to take your questions if you have any.
Thank you so much. That was such a fascinating presentation. And I think what you said about the importance of starting to understand students' experiences before they enter higher education is so important and is often missing. So I think that's a great contribution, as well as the longitudinal aspect. Does anyone have any questions? You can raise your hand if you have a question or add it to the chat. So I can go first while we give people a chance to collect their thoughts. I have many questions, but I will start with one. So I was wondering, based on your understanding of the kind of challenges students face, what recommendations would you give both schools and universities on how they can better support first in the family students who have a desire to enter university?
So based on the findings, something that I thought it was really agentic and strategic from the students is that in the public school, they spontaneously created a support network. So they started talking about what they wanted to do. And they realized that they were uninformed and biased about what to do next. So they would say, I'd like to study, let's say, I don't know, engineering, but it's really difficult. Universities, it's very difficult. I don't have the competences. I won't be able to make it. And then they were like challenge that and say, okay, but let's check the information. Let's check the criteria, the application criteria. And then they realized that it wasn't so, I mean, it was challenging, but that was something that they could do. So I think that setting up those spaces in which students can exchange information and have that dialogue is really important. We often talk about just providing information and the lack of information, but I think it's really more nuanced than that. I think it's about decoding information and learning how to, have that curiosity to really inquire and challenge yourself about your beliefs and biases. So I think it's also related to like critical thinking and so many other competences that could be fostered in schools. And briefly, if I think about universities, I think first year is so essential. Pedagogies during the first year are essential. And I think faculty and among all the actors, but most importantly, faculty members, because they are the ones who are in constant contact with the students. They need to be aware of these challenges, especially if we are accepting more students from underrepresented backgrounds. Then I think it's the institution's responsibility to support the students.
I couldn't agree more. And I find those kind of informal social support networks that are so non-competitive really fascinating.
Yes.
Okay, so we have some more questions and I'm conscious of time. So first, Gonzag.
Thank you. I really appreciate your presentation because I will be like continuing where you left because my subject is yours. It's what the transition from high school to university. Mine is transition from university to the workplace. So it's really fascinating. And also all you have been, the result that we are finding, it's relevant in nowadays. But I'm wondering, it looks like those who are entering high school or university have a positive attitude towards university or have high expectation. I am wondering, would you mind telling us the socio-economic background of their parent? Because I saw that you mentioned that their parent want them to have a better future. Is it why they want their son or their daughter to have a better future? Is their background? Could you tell us the background of those young student?
Yes, absolutely. So these are parents who are low income. So they come from low income backgrounds. Their level of education attainment is not secondary education. Secondary education is not completed in all cases. They have unskilled jobs. They struggle to keep permanent jobs, so they would work, for instance, as bus drivers or as cooks, mainly in the service area. They don't own a house, so their living conditions are, I would say, unstable. That's especially in the public school. I think, considering the subsidized school, they are not as low income as the public school because they are able to pay tuition fees, which are still significant given their circumstances, but they manage. However, levels of education attainment are also not completed in the secondary education level. And same thing with their job background. So unskilled jobs, some cases, they are a little bit well off in the sense that they might be small businesses owners. And yes, so none of them had gone to higher education. Yes, that's from the top of my mind.
Great. Okay, so we have another raised hand. I'm sorry, I can't read the script.
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't change my name, so it's Maria.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have two questions to you. The first question is perhaps whether in your research data collection, whether you've encountered cases when students of your profile would self-exclude from university applications. And it would be interesting to look if you've got any insights why that happens. And the second question is that you're using capability approach, aligning it with desirability. But if, well, like the typical approach would be to align it with aspirations, which are informed by capabilities, which kind of like introduces another level of complexity. So have you considered how their socioeconomic status and everything enables them to perceive higher education as within their reach regionally?
Just a quick jumping in to say we have 2 minutes, so maybe you could give a very quick response, and then you could kind of take it forward in the chat as well.
Yes, okay, I'll try to be really brief. So, yes, the sample is 14 students. However, only 9 students completed the data collection process, which I think it's telling in many different ways, but also it's very unfortunate because I couldn't really capture the students that I could sense had less chances to access higher education because of their socioeconomic circumstances and overall circumstances. What I could say that those students did perceive higher education as something more challenged and far removed from their reality. And in regard to the capabilities approach, something really interesting is that there is a policy, free tuition in Chile. So students from certain socioeconomic backgrounds are eligible to study without charge in higher education. So I would say this also is really relevant because most of them aspire to higher education because they knew that that was covered. So they weren't really worried about not being able to pay. And I think that question is very interesting, and it's something that I'm still thinking and developing, but I think that's what I can say so far. Thank you.
Thanks so much for the fascinating presentation and the really great questions as well. So now we're going to move on to our next presenter and the final one for today. Gonzag, do you want to share your slides?
Yes, for sure.
And I will give you a 5-minute sign when you have 5 minutes, when you have 5 minutes to go.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. Are you seeing my presentation?
Not yet.
Yes, 1 second.
I see Christian has come to the rescue.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Zoom, yes, here you go. Share.
Yes, now we can see it.
Yep. Yes.
So yeah, we have Gonzag today, who is going to be presenting a paper titled, "I Could Become Stewardess, the Perceived Value of the Higher Education Degree." So over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And my paper I want to share with you today is about the perceived value of higher education, or the perceived declining value of higher education. I'm happy that Dennis already introduced everything that I was supposed to be saying, but it's a continuation of where maybe she left. So as I will be brief in everything, I would welcome at the end maybe your comment, and I will appreciate. So the research, this is a part of my PhD study, in which I'm working on graduate employability in Romania. I'm seeing how overqualified young university graduates are experiencing education job mismatch. So what is happening here in Romania? I'm currently based in Romania. There is a rise of young university graduates in non-graduate position, and they are experiencing education job mismatch. When people are starting experiencing education job mismatch, we may wonder what is the value of your university credential, university degree. And I have seen that in Romania, this topic, it is not very, is still underexplored. So a quick reflection on the value of higher education degree. We are seeing here in Europe, especially in Romania, high knowledgeable and skilled workforce, but also unstable economy. We are also seeing a disparity between university offering and labor market demand. Also, there is a scarcity of job opportunity. Sometimes people are saying that there is oversupply of university graduate, but statistically, if we see, we don't have many people with university degree. Matching also and managing employee skills and the right job, it is still questionable. Some people are mentioning that there is a positive rate of return, economic and social benefit of being a university graduate. But with my presentation, I will be showing that it's not always the case. This paper, I want to understand the significance and the value of higher education. And my main research question was, what are the perceived benefit and shortcomings or drawbacks of being a university graduate in workplace? And how overqualified graduates understand the significance and the value of higher education? So already the literature has mentioned there are private benefit and social benefit of education, not only higher education or secondary education, also the university. There are some market and non-market. We may see employability. Denisa has mentioned that they have some goals to become lawyer, to attend some. They are thinking they will be having job. They will have a good career. In social benefit, you can just see when someone passed through the university, the community that has many people with university education, there is reduced crime, there's better social cohesion, vote participation, and so forth. So my methodological approach, was ethnographical research in which I undertook in a call center. Let me call it. I undertook an ethnographical research within call center here in Romania, and it is a qualitative study, and analysis was done with a thematic reflective analysis. I used participant observation, semi and unstructured interview to collect the data and analyzed with NVivo 12 software. It is based in Romania, Cluj-Napoca, which is the second biggest city in Romania. So people who participated in this research, I had a different category, but especially I had 26 customer support representative, which young graduate who are in their transition from university to labor market. I have been observing them during 2 years. Also, I had some interview with team leads, 5 managers, 3 people working in HR position in outsourced company here in Romania. So as main findings, I start finding that, as Denisa mentioned, perceive the private benefit of higher education and social benefit. Also, apart from that, I saw drawbacks of being a university graduate in the rapidly changing labor market. So as a private benefit, I see that all participants were telling me being at the university helped them to acquire knowledge. They feel like their personal growth, higher education enhanced their responsibility, employability, and improved the organization skills, and some start being self-sufficient. If I took some quotes that I from the interview, one Andrea told me that prior to attending university, his understanding of the world was quite limited. Then the university experience transformed him and allowed him to become a mature person. And he was telling me that he's independent today. He can just secure employment and travel without any help of parents or any relatives. So another one said how experience to the university developed strong teamwork and communication skills related to the job, and how he can just be able to cooperate or communicate effectively with customer and colleagues. So as a social benefit, being university graduate, being experience of higher education, assisted those young graduates to develop friendship, community engagement, global connection, participation in social activities. As some quotes, Vlad said, the university experience shaped her view on politics in Romania and the worldwide. And now he was confirming that he has a good opinion on globalization, every subject that comes in mind. And also he agreed that he convinced his community, because he's from rural area, to take his role in convincing his community to take vaccine against COVID was recognizable. And he was also organizing some event and a volunteer project for teens in the rural area. And Anna said that before he had a dropout mindset, And because he attended the university, he adopted some new behavior and attitude. And through multicultural event and project he attended, she have made friends all over the world, and she was considered as a global citizen. This is a positive side of being university graduate. So as a drawbacks, some of young graduate I had observed and do interview with them said that they blamed the university to have outdated curricula. They say that they are lacking practical skills, and they feel dissatisfied with the higher education system in Romania. And they are even mentioning there is a relatively low investment in high education in Romania compared to other European countries. One of the example, Robert, a manager, said university blamed the university that are preparing students only for education rather than practical application, and recommended that university should focus on equipping students for real world. So Monica said, "Oh, if without even university, he could become a flight attendant." And said even I can just do a short course, have an alternative. If I have a short course, I could get because I may just let you know that they are working as customer support representative or call center agent. Their salary are not good. That's why they are feeling, oh, if I do this, even a short course, I would get a good job without being attending university. So let me briefly discuss this as a positive side of being a university graduate. We see that there is a personal growth, responsibility, organizational skills, providing opportunity for mobility, participation in social and environmental cause. Because those young graduate working as those overqualified young graduate working as customer support representative are in job that don't match their skills and education level. So they fear they perceive the evaluation of university degree. They are always facing stress, low pay, unlimited career mobility, despite working in present environment. They are working in multinational company with good buildings and also, declining value of university degree. I have seen that it's a complex issue with multiple contributing factors, such as technological advancement and automation. Some jobs are not only being called in some country. Multinational company are trying to bring some, let's say, not good, precarious job to Romania or to India or somewhere else. Also, there is also changing job landscape. Also, the supply and demand dynamics. Some young graduates, as I mentioned, they are over-educated, overqualified, and they are experiencing skills mismatch. So there is also evolving employer expectation. I have seen that employer, demand side and supply side, they have different expectation. That's why employers are expecting practical and soft skills rather than while universities are developing hard skills. So also there are socio-economic factors which we can be attributed to the declining value of a university degree, such as the hiring system is there is nepotism, everything that is blocking some young university graduates to get good jobs. Also, there is a changing perception of higher education. It was very interesting to see that parents still have a positive attitude toward higher education. Also, this is changing when you are working in a job that does not require a university degree. Your perception of higher education start changing. So, as a conclusion, I have among perceived shortcoming, we see there is a gap between the expectations set by the demand and the supply side and graduate and the reality of the job market. As a private benefit, we see that university contributes to personal development, career prospect, and life opportunities. As a social benefit, higher education broaden impact on individual and their community, extended beyond just career and economic outcomes. The contribution that so far is I managed to provide valuable insight for policymakers, educators, and employer in addressing the challenge of graduate employability and the changing value of higher education degree. The generalizability of these findings that as a limitation is limited to a specific context. It is, as I mentioned, it is in call center, maybe a young university graduate who are in a position which match their skills. They can have different view. As a future research, as a recommendation, I am trying to see if maybe future research can examine causal mechanism of link between supply and the demand side, and also how maybe parents see their children their children who are being who are working in a job that do not match their skills and the education level. Yeah, thank you. This is main references I used. I would welcome your comment.
Thank you so much. That was a really very fascinating presentation and so much you've given us to think about. Maybe you can stop sharing so we can see each other properly. So we already have one question from Arokia Mary. Do you want to ask it?
Yeah, thank you, Shazana. I'm Arokia. I hope I'm visible now. Gunzak, thanks for the wonderful presentation. I would like to congratulate the SRHE organization team who have quite neatly aligned the presentation, which proceeds from Denise to Gunzak's in a linear fashion. That was quite fascinating in the thinking trail of thought. I was wondering from your presentation regarding the fact that if you could shed more light on how the professional degree students who are currently employed have how do they talk about employability, and also I understand it's more from the participants as much as I could gauge were more from social sciences.
Yes.
So I was wondering if the aspirations part was getting reflected before enrolling for the degree and landing a job. So if you could shed some light on that, that would be wonderful, Zach.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned something. This is a part of my PhD research. My first objective, it was about understanding their employability. How what types of what employers are looking for, and how they appreciate what the university are doing. So, if I understand you correctly, I have seen that I have one article only on employability, how their perception of employability, and I have seen that when it comes to employability, young university graduates, they feel confident what they have acquired at the university. But the problem, because they are in a mismatched position, they are not able to apply this, which they are experiencing what we call the skilling. If you are, let's say, if you have a master's degree and you are working in a job that require only high school, sometimes primary school, you are not going to be able to use your capability as it is supposed to be. So employability, that some of my respondents they are focusing on personal skills, knowledge, and everything. But also there is another part of employability. Employability is not only about having skills and ability. It's about also about employability depends on maybe if there is oversupply of university graduate. I still doubt about the oversupply. If I see statistics, they don't still have many people with university degree. But also those young graduates, they are concentrating in big cities. So in rural area, there are not good job. So many people are coming in a cities where young graduates are becoming more and getting, let's say, getting a job in mostly the background is from social sciences. If you had a degree from computer engineering, it's easy to get a job where I'm located. But those with low degree, sociology, anthropology, I don't know if you still have anthropology, psychology, they are facing difficulties to get a job because of a saturated labor market. I don't know if I managed to answer your question or I went somewhere else.
I think that was a really good answer. So
Okay.
if anybody else has questions, feel free to raise your hand. Denise, were you about to ask a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect.
I couldn't find the raise your hand function, but anyway. Yeah, so you mentioned that you collect the data for over 2 years,
Yep.
right? So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the challenges that you found because it's such a long period of data collection.
Yes, that's a good question. The first challenge is when you adopt, I like that you adopt a longitudinal. When you adopt ethnography is a challenge. Why? Because being black in Romania, going to, okay, I was undertaking my PhD and I was supposed to be taking the job, young, let's say, working with people with bachelor's degree, even high school degree, because I had some, my focus was on young university with university degrees. But I had some people with high school and primary school because they can at the call center they need you only to know how to manipulate the computer and to speak. Let's say if you speak French and English, they usually use English and French, and that's the first challenge. The second challenge, those multinational company have multinational company. It's not easy to correct the data. I was supposed to be. My manager knows that I use the participatory observation I did. I was supposed to be letting my manager knows that I am doing my research. But for the participant were not supposed to be knowing that I am doing research. Because if they know that I am observing them, they were supposed to be changing what I was trying to find out. So this is also a challenge. Also, multinational company has like this strong, let's say, strong policies. You cannot get some information. Let's say getting information about their education level. They say, oh, GDPR, we cannot provide such information. It was hard to go beneath the policy, multinational company. Also, when I try to ask them, why are you hiring people in a position which they have, they never say, oh, who told you that they have the education? How did you know that? But I'm working with them. I know they told me that they graduated from there. From there, I am seeing their CV everywhere in LinkedIn. Another challenge is also is doing the job and correcting the data at the same time. Sometimes you overwork. You're supposed to be overworking. You need to concentrate. You need to, sometimes you can just miss some point. Let's say I was also interested in see how they are using their emotion labor. Sometimes, because my background, I'm a social worker, when I saw they are facing when I saw some of my colleague customer support representative facing harassment, I was feeling to go and guide them how to, this also, it was a big challenge. The financing also, the wrong period of correction of data, it was also a challenge. But it was good. At the end, I managed. If you want to take a ethnography, I will recommend you because it's very interesting, and you will be finding many new also new ideas are coming. Also, it was a good part of this research. Also challenging because if you start like going there and you end up, it's also a challenge. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I guess when you're doing ethnography of the sort you did, where you're actually participating in a very intensive sense, it creates lots of immersion, but also lots of challenges. Maria, did you come to ask a question? Oh, no? Okay.
Not really a question. I
Okay.
just wanted to say how insightful it all was for me regarding the transitions. And I think it's very nice to see the transitions to higher education and the transitions afterwards to picture a more kind of like a holistic route of what might happen along the way. So I think it was a very insightful session overall, like building this progression from before university to after, and even after master studies. So thank you, both of the presenters. Really enjoyed it.
I couldn't agree more, and I can't take credit for the putting of the presentations together. I don't know if Rihanna is still here, but whoever did it, you also have my appreciation. Yeah, I mean, I was when I was listening to your presentation, Gonzag, it reminded me a little bit of the anthropologist Craig Jeffries' work. I don't know if you've come across it.
No.
I'll put it in the chat. I think you would find it really interesting. So he did research about sort of overqualified, underemployed Indians. And a very interesting finding he had was because they had made all these investments in higher education, but they were not able to get jobs, there had to be an emphasis on other value, like the kind of social benefits and the way in which it makes you a more refined person, and a greater emphasis on these kind of intrinsic benefits. And I wondered if you noticed that dynamic here as well, where, because, you know, with the UK, there's often this complaint that because it's so marketized, students don't think about the intrinsic value and they're just talking about jobs. And here you see quite the opposite. People are like, yes, I don't really think I can get a job, but it's really made me think differently and it's expanded my worldview. And I wonder whether you feel that was partly also a way of preserving and reproducing a narrative of higher education still being valuable in some sense, maybe not the employment sense. Yeah, I just wondered if you had any thoughts about that.
Yes, I did. I did because what I have seen working in call center, the minimum stay, it was like 3 months. The people who managed to be there for a long time, let's say 2 years. This shows how some people are coming on such jobs and they see they will not manage. They are trying to go, even there are some people who agree to go back in rural area and get the job which are in their position, in the match their level of education. And I have been seeing also some people who are even changing their mentality about the previous education they did. Let's say, oh, I did maybe sociology. Why not going back to undertake, let's say, a master's in, they are being reoriented. Let's say I did this, can I go back and take maybe a professional course or another master's in this so that it is the one that is required in the job market? Also, there is a difference. You can just feel the difference between the one with university degree and the one without university degree. Managers in multinational companies, when they are pushing, like the guy or girls in call center, they are pushing them. Oh, tell the customer this, tell the customer. If you have been at the university, you use your brain. Sometimes if they say push the customer, you know, there is something that I cannot tell the customer. There are something that you can just feel there is a difference, where I saw the difference between some people who have been at the university and some people who have not been to the university. Also, what you mentioned, there is not only university, it's not about preparing for the job. The main purpose of the university, it's not about the job. It's about having knowledgeable people who can just be socially active, politically active, and I really like the you mentioned the Indian case. India, you have many call center, and there are many literature on call center in India. It's really quite interesting, and I will take a look to the one the book that you shared.
Thank you so much. So as Christian reminds us, we're going to end in 1 minute. So I just wanted to take a chance to thank our presenters and our really engaged audience for a really good discussion today. I think it was great to have 2 longitudinal papers looking at 2 different stages of transition. And it's really an example of how when a session works well, it works really well. So thanks so much. I hope that we will all see each other in other sessions. Thanks also to Christian for really excellent management of all the tech problems and preventing them from happening. Yeah, so wish everyone a good rest of your SRHE. For those working on international student migration, we have a little network event at 1:30. So please feel free to drop in if that's kind of matching your interests. And otherwise, I hope to bump into all of you in future sessions. Bye.
Just briefly,
Oh yeah,
could
sorry,
you
Maria.
extend that networking event? Because I wasn't aware of it, and that is the topic of my interest. So could you, where can I find it? Is it online or is it?
So if you just go to the Oxford abstracts, you'll see
program,
conference program, sorry. You'll see that there are network events starting at 1:30. And there's one by the International Research and Researchers Network. Oh, thank you so much, Christian.
Thank you.
You can just drop in. It's really informal and it'll be fun. So, all right, bye.
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 Thank you.